So I'm currently putting together another Excel file, an Excel model. And about halfway through, then I thought, why don't I just do this while I'm live so you can see the process? Damn it. I'm just getting this set up, and I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm just setting this up, this thumbnail, so I don't forget. I think this Excel spreadsheet will be the best one. Well, I guess it depends. It's going to be a little more involved than the other Excel spreadsheets. Okay. So you have to input the income statement, balance sheet, and statement of cash flows. But the good thing is Yahoo Finance is free, and everything is set up consistently. So it's a little less confusing, because I could see if you're new to reading financial statements, it could get a little confusing, like what means what and all that stuff. So, but Yahoo Finance, like revenue is always in the same spot. Cost of revenue is always in the same spot. Then you have gross profit, etc. So just, I'm just doing meta as a example. So I just copied everything from Yahoo Finance into this Excel file. So you just have to copy the stuff in green. You don't have to copy every single number. So I just brought in the revenue, 156 billion, cost of revenue, 29 billion, and it calculates the gross profit. So you don't have to bring that number in. Operating expense, 64.8 billion. Operating income is calculated, gross profit minus operating expense. Oh, that's why it is. Okay. I'm trying to limit the amount of things you have to drag in. And I know you could automate this stuff. People always say, why don't you just automate it? But I think doing it yourself, you're going to learn it a lot better than just having a computer do everything for you by pressing a button. So you have all your income statement items here. And I'm adding stuff to the bottom because sometimes I need a little more detail in order to calculate the ratios. So I did the same thing with the balance sheet. I just went to Yahoo Finance. Actually, I didn't get the most recent balance sheet. Let me do that. So you want to bring in the cash, accounts receivables, and then other. And then your non-current assets. And then your current liabilities. You don't need all the detail, although I think it is helpful, but I'm just trying to limit the amount of inputs. On the bottom, this is the balance sheet. Assets plus liabilities. Well, assets minus liabilities equals equity, or equity plus liabilities equals assets. So that's your basic balance sheet formula. The good thing about Yahoo Finance is some information below it, like total debt, which is helpful. So you can just bring in the total debt number because that's needed for some of the calculations. I mean, you could go inside these arrows and get the total debt. You have to sum up total long-term debt, total current debt, or you could just take this number down here. Okay, so already I want to finish this while I'm live, but so currently I have 5 ratios set up. So these are calculated. So you don't have to touch anything. Only change numbers in blue font. So only change numbers in blue font. So you don't want to change only the blue font. And everything definitely help you analyze a company better, because this is generally what any analyst does. They look at the balance sheet and income statement, and it's hard to just look at numbers and like know everything, but you want to do these calculations because it gives you a sense of how the company is doing compared to other companies. Because you could always look at a company's profit and say, okay, it's going up. That's good. But how fast is it going up? Like on what percentage basis? So that's what these things will do. And also to compare against other companies will help a great deal. Our current liabilities and a quick ratio, which is a current assets excluding inventory over current liabilities. So the quick ratio is cash plus accounts receivables over current liabilities. And then you have your debt to equity ratio, which is debt over equity. So make sure you bring in the total debt from Yahoo Finance in order to calculate that. The equity, debt to assets, which is debt over total assets. And then you have interest coverage ratio. Like Meta, these ratios are going to look great. But if it's a company that's not as profitable, stuff like the interest coverage ratio is really important, because if they can't cover their interest, there's a risk they could go in either bankrupt, or they're going to need to take on debt just to fund their debt payments, which is the worst thing, to take debt to pay old debt. But it's what you got to do when you're growing. And it's just calculated. So interest coverage ratio is operating income, or EBIT, same thing, over interest expense. So as long as you fill in the blue, it'll calculate these ratios. And I'll share this Excel spreadsheet, of course, like I shared all my other Excel spreadsheets, for free. Now profitability ratios. Let's do that. So profit margin. Profit margin. Let me change these headers so they stand out a little better. Jeez. Profitability ratios. I think if you're looking at, a lot of us look at ratios, like we go to websites like Yahoo Finance, and then we go to stats, and then you can see the PE ratio, you see the PEG ratio, price of sales, price to book, and that's great if you're doing that. But it's a different level to calculate it yourself. It's the same number if you calculate it yourself, but then you understand it better, and then you could dissect it where you would say, well, their price sales is not so great, but X, Y, and Z. So you can understand a lot better and make a better investing decision. So profit margin. Let me know in the comments what these calculations are in case I forget. So net income, and once you plug in the blue, everything else should calculate for any company. It's the percent of your revenue you convert to net income. Net income over revenue. 36%, which is really high. You want to compare it to companies in the same industry. That's when you get a better sense of if it's really good or not. And you want to look at it over a number of quarters or years to see if it's improving or not. So return on assets. So that's net income over assets. So net income, we could just take it right here. Assets is over here. 22%. So that's how well the company uses assets to generate a profit. Return on equity. How well a company uses equity to generate a profit. So equity is right here, 34%. Return on capital employed. So that's operating income. And some people define these ratios slightly differently. Some of them, like some people leave out certain things. So operating income, capital employed, they define it as total assets minus current liabilities. But I bet you'll find different definitions. This website calls it total assets minus total current liabilities, or equity plus long-term liabilities. So assets minus current liabilities. Assets minus current liabilities. So definitely email me to get this file. and try to watch my videos a lot, preferably every day for the rest of your life. So email me if you want to get this file. I'll just send it to you. financial.business.consultant.sr at gmail.com. I'm not even asking you to pay me. I'm just asking you to watch the videos. Because people have offered me money. The most I've been offered was $500 for my DCF. That was in the beginning when I started my channel. I didn't share it. But now I'm just giving it for free. So hopefully I get more views. That's really the idea. So gross margin, that's a pretty easy one. Capital employed. Gross profit margin. Gross profit over revenue. So gross profit is revenue minus cost of revenue. And then you have revenue, which is, so it's just amazing, 81% margins. It depends the type of business. If you're in retail, you're not going to have 81% margins because you usually have to buy products to sell them. And that alone could be almost half your margin, just to buying the product. And then, of course, you have labor, rent, things like that. Efficiency ratios. You can even make up your own ratios. When you get good at this stuff, then you start coming up with your own ratios. And a lot of analysts do that. Turnover ratio. I learned all this stuff doing the CFA, especially on level 1. They have you memorize all the ratios. So turnover ratio, of course, I forgot some of them. I don't use them every day. Inventory turnover. Come on. God. I can't stand these pop-ups. So COGS over inventory. COGS is cost of revenue, all cost of goods sold. Usually COGS is when you sell a physical product. They don't sell physical products. They provide a service, Meta. So they call it cost of revenue. So but there's no inventory. They don't have inventory, so this wouldn't even apply for this. If this equals it, then I'll put NA. So NA, because they don't have inventory. Receivables turnover. It's revenue over accounts receivables. So revenue, accounts receivables. Most companies have accounts receivables, even if they don't sell products. Capital employed. I'm trying to pick the best ones. I get the real asset turnover ratio. I'll just use that one. What's your favorite ratio? Asset turnover. So revenue over assets. AP turnover. Let's do that one. Accounts payable turnover. Revenue over accounts payable. Let me update this. Accounts payable. Financials. Balance sheet. So accounts payable. Turnover. I got that one. So inventory turnover. I got inventory turnover. Working capital turnover, sales over working capital. I don't have that. Asset turnover. Let me add working capital. Working capital. So that's revenue over working capital. So revenue. Working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. Current assets minus current liabilities. I'll refine this as time goes on, as I use it more. Um, this is taking a while to put together, a lot longer than my other Excel models. But I think this will be a good one. Coverage ratios. I think this is one of the more important ones, coverage ratios. Measures the ability to make interest payments, because you go into default if you can't cover your interest payments. Okay. Time interest earned ratio. The formula is EBIT over interest payable on bonds. It's a lot easier just to go to a website and it gives you this stuff. Times interest earned ratio. EBIT, which is right here, 62 billion. Interest. Total interest on bonds and other debt. I guess it's the same exact calculation as the interest coverage ratio. So it's just the interest coverage ratio. I guess it's the same. What? Coverage ratios times interest earned ratio. Interest coverage ratio. Solvency. I guess it's the same calculation, so I guess there's no debt service coverage ratio. Okay. Operating income over debt service. Well, debt service includes principal. I'm trying to think, how do they have that in Yahoo Finance? I don't know if they do. Okay, they have the shares issued, total debt, invested capital. They kind of do capital lease obligations. I guess that's the same. I'm going to hold off this for now. Maybe I'll do at part 2. I'll do that one. Okay, dividend yield, that's a good one. Market prospect ratios. The hard part is it's not really on the balance sheet. They don't really, I guess that's just, This is a good one. Okay, stock price. Market cap. $1,453,000,000, because all the numbers are in thousands. Okay. Okay, the PE ratio. Net income. Shares outstanding. Now we can calculate shares outstanding, because shares outstanding is market cap over stock price. Everything's in thousands, so it's 2.5 billion shares. EPS. Okay, PE is stock price over earnings per share. Okay, stock price, earnings per share, right here. So EPS is 26. PE is 26. So dividend yield. Annual dividend. Stock price. .35. Oh, okay. 0.35%. So I calculated it right. Good. It seemed low, but that's what it is. What did I miss? Dividend payout ratio. There is total amount of dividends that a company pays to shareholders relative to net income. That's a good one. Okay. Dividend. Net income. So you want to do net income per share. Net income over that's good enough. So they pay out 9% of their net income. Okay, what else did I miss? I mean, there's a million ratios. It never ends, but try to get the more popular ones. PE. PE is good enough. PS, price sales, stock price over revenue. Revenue per share. So that's a 9 PE. You could always check to make sure you did it right, and also make sure Yahoo Finance is doing it right. I thought I found an error earlier, but then I realized it was my error. I didn't realize I was missing some info. Price sales 9.56, 9.3. The reason it's not exact is because the price sales is constantly changing, because stock price is constantly moving. So this is a hard-coded number. This is as of last night, but the market's open right now, so it's going to be moving around as the price goes up and down, because the numerator changes constantly. The denominator only changes once a quarter. The revenue changes. This is a good start. We don't have to get statement of cash flows involved. It's just already getting, it's a lot already, the way it is. I don't want to spend forever on this file. And the more stuff you add to these files, it kind of gets a little confusing in how to use it. Damn. I messed up this my formatting. Okay. Okay, here we go. It's finally done. Now this is just formatting. Now I have to make a video explaining this. It's going to take forever to make that video. So here's the final product. All you have to do is input the stuff in blue. You could just get it from Yahoo Finance. And then but I think I got it all. This is helpful. I think it's helpful. The reason, because even though you can look up obviously what current ratio is, you know, there is a chance that website's not right. That's kind of unlikely, but let's just assume every website is correct. Just by looking up, it's hard to tell like what would happen if they acquired another company, you know, so cash goes down. How does it affect these ratios? So you could kind of play around with it. You can see, okay, cash is 70.9 billion. Say they needed to, roughly half of that cash they needed to do something with. So you cut in half, and then you could see how these ratios change. But you have to understand things, because if they acquire another company, they're acquiring those assets. So it wouldn't affect total assets if they acquire another company, but it would affect the current ratio, because if you're using cash to buy another company's assets, probably property or goodwill, or you generally don't acquire cash when you acquire another company. Although some of the assets you acquire may be cash, accounts receivables, inventory, but generally the bulk of the assets you acquire are not going to be that. And you will acquire liabilities as well. You could play around with that. So it kind of gives you a kind of an inside peek into how things move or adjust. But you don't have to even go to that level of tinkering with the numbers. You can just build this and then get these ratios on your own. And then if you do this every quarter, you can compare quarter by quarter. And it would it really does give you a better sense of how the market works if you put it together yourself. And then when people say, oh, this website's wrong, or even I say it sometimes, I just said it earlier, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I just assume they were wrong. And most of the time, it's very rare these websites are wrong. 99% of the time, it's the person. So what happened earlier is I was trying to calculate the interest coverage ratio. So the interest a company pays on its debt is going to be right here. Well, let me leave this closed. So earlier I saw net non-operating interest, which is 1.9 billion. So I put that into my Excel, 1.9 billion. And that's net non-operating interest. It's just the interest they received, interest income. That's the interest Meta receives on the cash it has sitting in its bank account. Interest expense is the interest they pay in their debt. So they're net positive because they have so much cash. So when I calculated the net interest, it's a simple, like, the interest they received, 2.4 billion, minus the interest they paid, 600 million. 1774. And then I'm like, but this is different. It's 1884. So I just assumed it's wrong, Yahoo Finance. Because how could, I'm doing the math, I'm doing the calculation myself, and it's wrong. It even says here 1884. And 2.3 minus 600 is not 1884. It's 1774. And then later on, I clicked on this button and I see the difference because there's this negative 110 million in other finance costs. That's part of the calculation, which is not down here. So when you add that negative 110 million, now it's 1884, which matches the income statement. What else? EBITDA. I mean, there's so much. I could spend the rest of my life. You could calculate the EBITDA margin. Maybe we'll do that. I'll just leave it as this, and maybe I'll make a video. So feel free to email me if you want a copy of this Excel file. I guess I'll just make a video on it. Okay, thanks for watching. Look out for the video.